Hi, Papercut here, back with another breakdown of the EGCTV Elite Classic games that happened last weekend. There were 4 very good series that went down, and the games were just amazing, both seeing the strategies we know on the rank ladder, but also watching some strategies that we haven't seen, as well as watching responses and unique ways to play the game that just can inform you so much on just ways to improve your own game. So I'm going to look at 3 different games that I thought showcased either some unique strategies or thought processes or just cool ways to play the game. I hope you really enjoy these breakdowns, and I highly encourage you to watch these games. If you are interested in coaching or in a community where you can ask questions and share about your experiences early before, and even get various free help in the game to help better your skills, my coaching Discord is located in the description. There's a lot of great people there who are willing to help you, and I hope to see you there. Let's go look at some games. First game we're going to look at is between 3DB and LoueMT series. Now this was, I guess I could say this for every series, a great series. Louis ended up taking the series 4-2. And this is actually a game that 3DB won as China. What I want to actually highlight is how Louis survived in this game. He enters this game with a huge disadvantage. He's going to get very few sheep. 3DB is going to have a very great opening strategy, and Louis is going to fall very far behind. And most people would have probably lost pretty quickly, but I think it's interesting to see how Louis stayed in the game, how he played defense, how he pushed back out, and gave himself an opportunity to win. There's a lot to learn from what he does. So let's jump into where we kind of see this happen. The 7:30 mark, we already see Louis recognize the situation that he's in. His age up was extremely slow at the 4:30 mark. And B, taking advantage of what he noticed was a slow opening from Louis, actually made units after he made the Imperial Academy for China, not waiting for Song. He got a horseman, kept him in his base, and Louis basically rallying just to a gold mine just to make sure he can get gold. The first thing he does is initially recognize that he's on the defensive and B is on the aggressive units, and immediately sets up walls on his flanks. This is a very important thing to do. If you're going to be on the defensive, either because attack failed or you're rushing castle, you're going 2TC, what flanks can you wall off to make sure B or whoever you're playing against cannot run units into the back? He needs to create a safe area for, in this case, to set up farms and safe resources. His wood right here is safe, and that means he can focus all of his units on one spot, this gold mine. If he didn't set up these walls, then B could be running around horsemen, forcing him to split his units and make it very hard to defend. So walling up these flanks and being able to focus units on one spot, key early thing that Louis does. Next, at the 9-minute mark, we see another key part of defense, which is always be locating your opponent's forces. Louis is constantly having his scouts shadow where B's forces are, allowing him to immediately set up walls opposite of B. Since B is now over here, he's going to set up walls here because B used to be sitting right next to his gold mine. Every time B moves, he's going to be trying to set up walls opposite of where his military is to continually try to create this shell around his base. And then he never stops making units. He keeps making archers, he keeps making spearmen, because what he can't have is B walking in with an overwhelming force. Now, since B just hit castle, Louis recognizes it as his first chance to do some damage. So he's going to push out of his base and try to do something to B since he's hit castle. Fortunately, he's going to quickly realize that there's really no opportunity to do damage. With the Barbican right here on his gold, and considering that he hasn't really been scouting much, he's been trying to protect his base, he has kept 1 early men-at-arms here on the deer, but B's not there yet. So he's going to desperately try to walk here, do damage. B's going to do the smart thing, which is back up and not take a fight. You're going to see Louis continually try to rotate, and there's nothing there. And here's something else he does that's smart. If there's an opportunity, he would have taken it. But he also recognizes that this is the only way he can defend himself in castle. He's guessing that B's probably going to make knights because he has a stable, or maybe he's going to be sending men at arms. Whatever it is, this is the only thing protecting him, and now that he's got his walls up, he actually has a chance to survive any sort of quick castle push. So instead of throwing this army away for a few villager kills, he's going to head back and try to get the castle himself. Another key part of defense is punishing over-aggression. Louis was staying by his base and noticed that B had pushed up with a force of mostly cavalry and a few archers. He could take that fight because he had so many spearmen. So he actually jumped B's forces, took the fight, killed some knights, killed some horsemen, and got rid of his archers. And while he's going to take a lot of damage on this, he definitely dealt more to B than B was ready for. I think B thought he was already back in his base, and Louis, because he kept scouting, found an opportunity to jump units get and take that defender's advantage, get a chance to do some damage, and then, once again, he's not going to over-pursue. He's going to chase away the knights, see the archers and reinforcements, and run away. At the 14.5-minute mark, we see Louis take his first big risk. He's been mining this gold, and he's almost out of this gold. He's castled. He's on the king's palace. He knows he's going to need villagers. China's going to outmass him. So while it would have been nice to go on White Tower, he knows he needs the eco. He immediately drops 2 barracks to get out a good castle unit for himself, which is spears and men-at-arms, and he sends villagers to the back gold here. This is just smart. Once this gold runs out, he has no gold, so he needs to right now, while he can, get as much extra gold as possible. Seeing B's army right here, and seeing it's primarily archers, he takes a risk and goes to the far gold, hoping that B is not going to be checking us. B is going to assume that all his villagers are in here. You have to take these risks sometimes on defense. Go for the far out resources when your opponent is attacking, so your villagers, 1, don't die, and 2, you can get resources that you might struggle to have in your base currently. A minute later, we see another key tenet of defense that Louis is going to use a lot, which is patience. He is not going to take a fight before he absolutely has to. He knows he needs the mass units. He knows he needs to wait for his upgrades. He knows that he's going to have a much better fight if he waits it out. So, with Vortix, with B pushing into his base, he's going to immediately pull villagers back, 1, away from easy to snipe spots like this wood line. 2, he's going to keep his army close, but not come out here and engage. There's no reason to engage out here. He wants to wait until B is under his TC, once again, English have better TC fire, to take this engagement. He will walk up and threaten, but he's never actually going to walk out and take this fight if possible. He's going to let his longbows do some work, but he's going to play patience. Once again, he's still waiting here. He tries to re-wall quickly, which is smart, because this re-wall is going to force B to burn down again, wasting time. Villagers are being rallied as far north as possible away from the fight. Once again, he's going to let his range do some work, but he's not going to force anything. He puts up a tower, immediately gets Springle attachment onto it, just for that little bit of damage every time B comes up. So he's creating once again, like zones of attack that B pushes in, this TC, this tower, and he's keeping his units back and not engaging until he has to. Patience is critical for defense. You want to give yourself a chance to build up as many forces as possible, get your upgrades, and force your opponent to fight in the worst position possible, which is usually in between buildings where his melee units cannot stack up, or they get stacked up in the choke points, and 2, under TCs, under towers, whatever defensive things you can get. Now, if B had ran in and dove villagers, he would have pulled his villagers back and ran them around and brought his units forward and probably been patient, cut off reinforcements, things like that. Be smart though. B knows if he dives into the English base before he's ready for it, he'll get cut off. He'll get tore down by the TC. And since Louis has enough forces to be a serious threat, Louis would probably clean him up. So B's being patient. B keeps attacking to make Louis feel stuck in his base and not push out, but he's not ready to engage yet. He knows that. The 1750 mark, we finally see Louis recognize his advantages here. He has continuously built units, and when B attacks, he realizes B doesn't have that many units. He has some knights, he has some archers, and he has a nest of bees, and he actually has the units to fight this. So he takes that advantage, pushes out, kills the nest of bees, beats back B's forces, and I want to watch you what he does the second he gets the space. He's pushed out, he brings villagers up, he's waiting, he's making sure he pushes his force back. I mean, if B had just raided up here, man, that'd been huge. The second he gains the space, he immediately drops 2 stables, he puts his villagers on the top wood line, and watch what he does from here. He immediately walls up. He has just gained this space, and he needs it. He needs this deer, he needs this gold, he needs this wood. There's stone and berries back here. There's a sacred site right here, this big gold right here. So he's immediately, the second he gains the space, wall up. It's vital for him. He needs to secure and keep the space. At the 22-minute mark, we see the first example of this sort of raid. Having been scouting B the entire time they've been fighting, he creates this horseman, a knight, and he sends him down to the stone. He is currently being attacked. B is pushed back into his base, and once again, using smart defensive tactics, Louis has pulled back. He's not going to take this fight until he absolutely has to. Doesn't matter if he loses some lumber camps and production. He's going to keep rallying to where his villagers are, and that's where he has to fight. But this raid is huge. Once he kills an Imperial Official, that's a lot of lost eco for B. But 2, B is going to have to respond to this by sending units, by either moving villagers, and these small raids do so much distraction. B is just going to throw away some villagers here, because to him, he probably has plenty of villagers. I know he's way ahead on villagers right now. But You can often, in your games, get your opponent to overreact to raids, or if they don't react, just get a lot of villager kills. Louis is going to continually do these sort of raids. Overall, these sort of tactics, walls, patience, towers, raiding, and whenever possible, seizing advantage for a quick win, and then walling up to secure space, is critical to defense. When you fall behind, it does not mean it's an automatic loss. Smart play, use of your advantages, your base, your defenses, can get you back in a game. Louis is going to end up winning this one, but he's going to push this game to 43 minutes and really put a scare in B for losing this game. Louis, like many of these pros, doesn't give up and looks for every advantage they can. The next game we're going to look at is the deciding game of the series between Puppypaw and Vortix. Puppypaw ends up winning the series against Vortix, and one is because of his amazing China play. I think Puppypaw is 7-0 in the Elite Classic on China. He just plays it so well. And I think the biggest reason he plays it so well is because he plays China in many unique ways. He does not feel tied to a 2TC boom style that a lot of people feel for China, and he will play them a lot of times in a very feudal aggressive way, which China can play. It just requires some out-of-the-box thinking. So I want to highlight this game because of Puppypaw's out-of-the-box strategy here against the Ottoman. Ottoman's a really tough civ. Most people in this tournament would ban Ottoman because they're so tough. Now, how is Puppypaw going to play against this? Well, Ottoman becomes tough once they get the military schools up and they start getting to Castle and Imperial. So the best time to attack is early feudal. That's usually not China's strong suit. They don't want to fight in feudal. So what does Puppypaw do? He makes an adjustment to his strategy to take advantage of Ottoman's weakest point in that early feudal. Let's see how he does. The first hint, the Puppypaw strategy is different, is at the 4-minute and 30-second mark. First of all, in his opening move, Puppypaw, unlike most Chinese players, did not go Imperial Official. He actually got up as quickly as possible and dropped the Imperial Academy. Then he made an Imperial Official of the Imperial Academy. Then what he did, he's making all of them right now. Then what he did is that he actually forgoed getting his Barbican, which would have got him Song Dynasty. He doesn't have the time to do that. Getting Song Dynasty gives Vortix precious time to start getting up his military schools in the Ottoman production. Instead, he drops an archery range. Once again, weird, because usually you don't drop an archery range until you go Song, so you get Zugno. He's not going to go Zugno. He's going to go archers. During the scouting of his opponent's base, he realized something key. He realized that both of Vortix's wood lines are on the front together. Ottoman needs a lot of wood early game, a lot of wood for the military schools for production. And what he realizes is, if I drop a Barbican right here, I can cut off his wood completely. So Puppypaw is going to immediately rush up an archery range. Using an Imperial Official, he's going to get out archers quickly. And here's the thing for Vortix. I think he understands something's different, but he could have just assumed that the archers were built to push off his spearmen. Puppypaw gives up a barracks, makes a few more units. He starts sending the units forward immediately. He's not waiting. He's going to send them forward immediately to pressure. But once again, I don't think Vortix was expecting us to see, because then Puppypaw sends 5 villagers forward with these units. Once again, Vortix might be assuming, okay, he's chasing me off. But something that Puppypaw did while he's running down is, 1, he pushed away the spears. 2, he pushed away Vortix's scout. He does not want Vortix to see this Barbican coming. All of a sudden, the units show up, and there's the Barbican drop. And this is nasty. Because not only that, he's going to hyper commit to this. Vortix sees the Barbican coming, and he decides to rush Castle. Honestly, probably the best thing for him. He's almost at Castle by the time the Barbican comes up. And you would think Puppypaw loses in this case. But the big thing is that he commits to this. He understands. The biggest thing about Castle is, if you can cut them off from resources, then it's like Castle didn't happen. If you can't get gold, if you can't get wood to build production, if you can't get food to make units, whatever you can cut off, if you cut it off, it's like Castle's not even happening. So with these 5 villagers and their super fast build speed, he's going to just start dropping towers. He uses his units that he built to pressure off the gold, but there's a tower there. So he just starts dropping tower after tower. He defends these towers with his units, and he immediately starts getting upgrades for them. Vortix hits Castle. Puppy's not afraid. Keeps dropping towers. And then is this going to steal the deer himself for food. And this commitment is really crazy. I think a lot of people would have been scared, but he kept making units. Just kept making units and sending them down. Archers and spearmen. When then he switched to Zug at this point, I'm pretty sure. Yes, he does. Drops his blacksmith because he realizes I might need to start making rams. He gets all his food villagers on deer, so he can get a huge food amount. Get the Imperial Official on the mill, which is massive. That's going to empower his economy to quickly get into castle. Got stone early on to upgrade these towers. And off he goes. Puppy rushes castle, and now that he's in castle, he realizes once again the comp that Vortix has, which is all archers and knights. So he himself is just going to mass knights. He gets raided, but he protected the raid, so he had kept spearmen back here to make sure that he can't get raided. He puts up walls to prevent these raids. He just masses knights himself. Vortix finally pushes out, but it's too late. He's lost his advantage. The advantage that he had from rushing castle is gone. Puppy now spreads his units all over the map. At this point, Vortix can start feeling good about coming back, but all of a sudden, here comes these extra units, because he knows Vortix has to be out on the map. He trebbed down the twin minaret, and these towers had kept him off there, so he moved his villagers over. So where's the only place he could go? On the food over here. Pushes him off the food, and he just masses an insane amount of spears and knights. He's literally just pumping knights out of these stables and sending them forward. Takes this engagement, and Vortix realizes, oh my god, he has more knights than me. His archers are going to do no damage against this. He gets ran down, knights jump on the siege, and Vortix realizes that he can't catch up at this point. He doesn't have the resources, he can't make enough villagers, he can't push out of his base, and it's over. And that's crazy. What a unique way to play China in response to what your opponent's weaknesses will be. Shout out to Puppypaw. Next series we look at is LoueMT versus Wham. Louis is going to sweep Wham 4-0 and look pretty dominant doing it. Wham is a very good player, and this series is kind of like the proof of what Louis can be at full strength. Malians versus JD is an interesting matchup because JD can be super aggressive, though a lot of pros play JD in a more boom macro style. Knowing Malian, you can't let them get their eco up into castle, so you can assume Wham's gonna push. So Louis wants to get to castle and do the usual mass crazy amounts of units and go as Malians. But his strategy on this is going to be very, very unique in how he decides to break this game open, and that's what we want to check out here. At the 14th minute mark, it's important to kind of set the lay of the land. Louis was able to get to castle without taking very many losses. Wham was able to go 2TC and pressure, though he probably didn't do as much damage as he wanted to as Louis reached castle. Wham heads back, gets castle himself, and now we're at this point where Wham knows what's coming. He's going to expect to see the massive units coming from Louis. He's probably expecting Sofa and either Musafati, which Louis has kind of pioneered as the combo because you need spears for the Sofa, and so the Musafati kill all the spears and the Sofa jump on the archers, or the crossbows, depending on what they make. So, and that's what Wham's already. Wham's already started going to a pure spearman comp. He's starting to make crossbows. He's actually basically dropped knights, and his goal is to. He's got the full wall up. He wants to keep making villagers. He wants to get his farms down because now he has to start doing this food transition. If he can survive that food transition and keep getting more villagers than Louis, he's hoping he can kind of outlast them and beat him in Imperial, where I think he thinks that JD is better. John Dark is better. To combat this, Louis is going to have a much more interesting strategy. He's going to do the usual attempts at raiding. He's going to keep poking the walls. But I want you to notice the units he's showing. He's showing just Sofas. Sofas are fast. He can run away from his infantry army. He's just going to keep poking these walls. He'll run away, come back, keep poking the walls, forcing Wham to stay by his walls. This is too many Sofas. At the 17.5 minute mark, we see Louis' plan come into action. As I said, he's been raiding the same wall, keeping Wham in his base, keeping him scared. But behind that, he has been massing in his base undetected. The walls have kept him safe from raids, but it's also kept him safe from Wham's scouts' eyes. Wham does not know the switch that Louis has made, which is into mass warrior scouts. Why warrior scouts? Warrior scouts are fast, they regenerate health, and they're cheap. And his plan is going to be simple. throw masses of cheap Musafati and cheap warrior scouts at Wham, break his defenses, and since his defenses is mostly very slow infantry, run around his base and do eco damage because he needs to get this villager count down. He's going to run directly at the walls, and what he knows is that he has kept Wham to one side of the base because of these sofa raids. He's raiding right now, and half of Wham's army is over there to take care of it. Where all of a sudden the real force shows up out of nowhere. This comes fast. He can't wall it. He doesn't even take the real fight with his units. He just rushes his warrior scouts in, and I want you to watch the eco damage that is done. He immediately just goes to the resource sites. And here's the thing, because they're scouts, they can see farther. Look at the vision he has. The big issue sometimes of raids like this is that if you don't have a scout with it, you can't see. These scouts can see everything. He also splits off and immediately starts checking all around the base. And these scouts are just going to run to the back because he knows that's where the main villagers are going to be. His Musafati stay, his slower units stay at the front to force him to engage. And this is an awful engagement. Spears are going to get torn up by Musafati. Yes, Musafati don't necessarily hard counter them, but they do enough damage that these spearmen are not going to have a good time. While that's happening, he rushes to the back here, and let's just watch these villager deaths pile up. He goes from 10 dead vills to 30 dead vills, and he doesn't even care about losing these warrior scouts. They're cheap. Each warrior scout is 90 food, which he's getting 2,000 right now. He ends up killing 36 vills and equalizes. No more. 39 vills. Equalizes the villager amounts, which for Wham is awful. Because for Louis, this is villagers plus 3 pit mines and cows. No one else probably saw this sort of comp run, but the idea behind it is very, very smart. Works against the comp he saw, which is he went sofas early, forcing Wham to go early spears and crossbows, a slow comp, and then took advantage of that by raiding with much faster, very cheap warrior scouts. And once the eco is dead, Wham was never able to recover, and Louis eventually just runs over him. Really impressive stuff once again from Louis. Just all his games. Watch all his games. They're crazy good. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any other ideas for me to cover or things you want to learn about within AoE 4, please comment below. Lastly, I am streaming more on Twitch, where I do replay reviews, where I play my own games. Always happy to take and answer questions, and hope to see you there. As always, good luck on your games.